Hi, this is Dr. Laura Baudino. I am doing collaborative check-in today with Jessica and Rachel, the occupational therapist with Harkla. Thank you both for being here and talking with me today.
Yeah, thank you. We're excited.
Yeah, so the Collaborative Health Summit is happening in March 10th. We have experts from across fields really supporting the whole child. And both of you are so valuable with occupational therapy. And I really want to dive into sensory work. And Harkla, the company, has been so beautifully thoughtful and generous to provide a gift to our audience members during the summit for a raffle. And the products, I know for me, and I'm sure you too as well, being there, I constantly am giving referrals over and saying, you have to use these products. You have to, get in and look at what they are offering. So it's so exciting. So tell me a little bit about how you both have incorporated the sensory work and even combining your work with Harkla.
So the beauty of sensory is we like to use the term sensory goggles, and putting your sensory goggles on, helping everyone realize that, everyone has a sensory system, and everyone has their own sensory challenges, whether we realize it or not. So being able to use Harkla's products and our knowledge with sensory integration, just bringing them together and making it more of a normal thing.
I love that. I call them sensory superpowers. I'm constantly working with people to realize that we're not distracting a child or not distracting ourselves, but we're empowering ourselves to say, hey, we have this system that we can use and it tells us information. And this is so important. So when you're working with Harkla and supporting families with occupational therapy, is there a range of ages of the children that you're supporting?
I think it's all ages. I think, even adults are purchasing products and can benefit from the products as well. My favorite is the compression swing. I have it hung up in my house. I use it. My 5-month-old, we use it with him. My husband uses it. It's so relaxing. I was gonna say, I use the weighted blanket almost every night. Yeah. So
I was wondering, for those that haven't seen these products yet and hearing these words for the first time, compression and weighted blanket, can you share with us a little bit more what they do for our sensory system and our regulation?
So the compression swing, it's made out of like a two-way stretch material. So you get in it, you get the vestibular input, which is basically movement and head position changes. And then you also get the compression or the proprioception, which is the compression of your joints, the compression, stretching of your joints. And so it's all encompassing, it's relaxing, but it's alerting too, depending on how you use it. So there's tons of different ways that you can use it. We're going to be sharing at Harkla how to use the products in therapeutic ways, as well as with just anyone.
Yeah. It's so important because then you're not just getting a product, but you're getting the understanding of like how to use this, when to use it, and really how it can benefit. I know so many of our families are home, social distancing and virtual learning right now. And what an incredible asset to have these tools within your home that you can use throughout the day.
Exactly. I mean, think about doing homework in a swing. Kids will be so much more successful if we provide that extra movement, or they have a lap pad that they're using while they're sitting at the desk. They're going to be so much more successful with just a little sensory switch.
Can you tell me a little bit about the other products that you're feeling are useful with Harkla?
Well, I think the weighted blankets and the weighted lap pads are so great because you can use them, like Rachel said, when you're sitting at the table to provide that calming weighted input to help, maintain attention while you're sitting down. But then also you get the weighted blanket, and that's so beneficial for helping with sleep. And all of our kiddos who struggle to fall asleep or stay asleep because their sensory system is disorganized, that weight from the blanket gives them calming proprioceptive input and can just help their body feel more calm and secure.
It's so important. And it's one of those materials that you feel like, okay, now I have some differentiation from my child, rather than mom or dad or care provider being that weight and hugging that child all night. You get to hug the child and be there with them, but then you get to separate and they still get that input that they're needing to see their system go down. Which is so wonderful.
And I want to add that some people don't love the weight that weighted blankets provide. And so they also offer compression sheets, which it's the weighted blanket alternative. So they slide over the bed and they provide that same compression like the compression swing does. So they can crawl in it. We love doing it like as therapeutic activities and putting puzzle pieces in the bottom, having them climb under there, grab the puzzle pieces, climb back out, put them in the puzzle board. So that's a great opportunity for some like heavy work. And then as well, they have a body sock, which is again that same compression material. It's just they can get in, they can push against it and kind of feel their edges, similar to a baby in the womb or a baby in a sleep sack or a swaddle, something like that.
Yeah, I love, as a dance movement therapist, I use a body sock in pretty much all my sessions.
Awesome.
And yeah, and just really, I've done regression work with parent and child in that womb development, rebirthing experience, and also just a space to really be in their own space, to be able to move how they want to move. And again, talk about this time at home right now, having this opportunity to go in the compression sheets or in the body sock is such an opportunity where you feel like you have your own space, but you can move in it with such freedom and get that response back.
Yeah.
It's so important. So, Jessica and Rachel, as occupational therapy assistants, would you share with us a little bit more about your background and then also like how you came to work with Harkla?
So we actually went to school together, and like,
Yay.
gosh, 8 or 9 years ago.
Yeah.
And we both have experience in outpatient pediatric clinics, providing occupational therapy services to kiddos with ranging of, just a range of diagnoses, and typically ages is birth to 21. And so we've been doing that for almost 8 years. And then, gosh, 3 years ago? 3 years ago, we started a podcast.
Yes, it was called the Sensory Project Show. Now it will be known as All Things Sensory. And we really started it to connect with parents, because what we were finding is after we would treat a kiddo, we would talk with the families very briefly, and we just felt a disconnect. They didn't know what we were doing. They didn't know why we were doing it. They didn't know what activities to carry over. So we felt, we started a podcast and we'd share it with our families. They'd learn all about occupational therapy, sensory integration, primitive reflexes. And then we found out that therapists really needed that additional support. So we've connected with lots of therapists, families with different needs. And it's just, we talk about everything on that podcast. And it's not just for families with kiddos with different abilities. It's really for any child, any family, any therapist.
Yeah, anybody working with kids can benefit from it.
Absolutely. Yes. That's our goal for the Collaborative Health Summit, is that all of us can be learning to integrate this. And in my experience as a psychologist or a medical provider, all of us need to have this information when you're working with a child or individual. It just heightens our instincts and our lenses to give that just right approach. I love this. I have been met so many times with people, even in the hospital world, saying, "Oh, I don't know about that sensory thing. Is it real?" And the proof is like in what you see, right? When you see the child presenting this way, or the individual, and you see the response and how we can organize ourselves, you just see so much more ease and connection and communication. I'm so happy that everyone has this resource in the two of you. It's fantastic. So you want to share with our audience about primitive reflexes for a moment?
Yes, there's so much to cover, but briefly.
Yes, I know.
Like the building blocks, right? When you think about the building blocks, if these children have retained primitive reflexes, that means that they're holding on to them. They're not letting go of them like they should. They're going to cause lots of ongoing issues, like so many, like anxiety and hypersensitivity to different senses. They're going to cause potentially allergies to different medications, foods, left, right challenges, potential bedwetting issues,
learning difficulties.
Learning difficulties, yes.
Like the range is huge. And so what we're trying to get out there is that your kiddo might be diagnosed with ADHD or sensory processing challenges or autism, anything. But what we want parents to think about is to go back and look at those foundational skills. Are they holding on to those reflexes? Are those reflexes causing these symptoms of ADHD, sensory processing challenges, autism and things like that? If we can work through integrating those reflexes, making them go away, the idea is that we will have higher cognitive processing and we'll be able to tap into those higher levels of the brain. And that's what we all want.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I do know, it's such a full field and there's so much to look at, and even the different activities that the child can practice. But what I love is that empowering that there is interactive activities and ways to support the child to evolve or grow out and grow through these stages. I see it all the time, Jessica and Rachel. When I am, as a psychologist, one of our number one diagnoses is anxiety. And now we have the pandemic and you have higher anxiety. And the thing is, though, those that are really showing more challenges, in my experience, you start to see that there is some retained primitive reflexes that were there before. And it took that stressor to kind of heighten it and bring it to those awareness, but that it's something in that moral reflex, that fight, flight, or freeze response. And you start to have them do some of these movements and you're going, oh, yep, there it is. It's been there. And then again, it's so powerful to be able to have tools and resources like the two of you to say, hey, we can do something about this. We can work together and help your child be more integrated, more, more ability to climb up to those executive functioning skills.
Yep. Unfortunately, the only challenge is it's not a quick fix. It's not
Correct.
a magic pill. It takes a lot of work and consistency to be able to integrate those reflexes. And, you do it, it will make a difference.
And it's worth it.
It is, definitely.
Yeah. And the movements are so subtle and they're slow and they're sequential. So they almost seem like, what is this really doing? So there is that trust in that process. So, well, the three of us are here to say that we approve it, and we're saying that we're seeing all the best results. So that's wonderful. So can you want to share any last takeaways before we go? Anything, tips?
Yeah. I think for me, my biggest takeaway is to empathize with you. It's always my go-to. I just think it's so important to empathize with these kiddos who maybe have sensory processing challenges. From my standpoint, I have my own. And once I was able to realize what it feels like to have these, to feel like that nail going on the chalkboard, that feeling in your back, like that's what kids go through on a daily basis. And that's what they're dealing with. So if we can put our feet in their shoes for a day and feel what they're feeling, we'll be able to help them so much more.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, I think my biggest, piece of advice that I tell families is just that, make that connection with your kiddo and take that step. Like once you know more, you can do more. And it just takes that first step to get going. It seems like there's a lot, but if you just do one step at a time, then you're going to make progress.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, thank you both so much. Again, I wanted to just share that the Collaborative Health Summit is happening March 10th, and Harkla is a proud sponsor offering some of these incredible products. So make sure to check them out at harkla.co. Reach out to Jessica and Rachel to hear more. Can you share with me, how do we find you?
Everywhere.
We're on all social media platforms. Our podcast is called All Things Sensory by Harkla. So you can listen to us on all the podcast platforms.
Yep. And social media, we are Harkla_family.
Beautiful. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.